Have you ever had that strange gut feeling that something was off, but couldn't quite explain why? Like your choices weren't entirely your own, as if something unseen was nudging you. Maybe you agreed to do things you didn't really want to, stayed silent in arguments you should have won, or put your faith in people who later revealed their true selves. If any of this feels familiar, and I know it does, this video is meant for you. Because here's the harsh reality: you are being manipulated, constantly, by friends, by media, by people in power, by those who understand the hidden levers of human psychology. And the scariest part? You rarely notice. There's no need for hypnosis or sci-fi mind control. The most powerful manipulation is the one that makes you believe every decision was yours, that your failure was your fault, that you were never influenced. Most people live like this, quietly controlled, like pawns on a game board they didn't know existed. And when they do push back, they're hit with guilt, fear, or hesitation. That's because they've been emotionally trained to obey. Think it doesn't apply to you. That's exactly what a skilled manipulator wants you to think. This video won't comfort you. It will equip you. Because those who truly master manipulation, as Machiavelli knew, don't need to yell or demand. They observe. They notice what makes you tick, and they move. They understand your inner drivers. And if you don't understand them yourself, someone else will use them against you. You'll start to see how you're being controlled through patterns, subtle tricks, and emotional pressure. You'll learn to detect your own blind spots and how to protect your mind. Because real freedom isn't just doing what you want, it's knowing why you want it. This video is a wake-up call for those tired of being taken advantage of, blamed, silenced, or emotionally trapped. Here, you'll stop being a puppet and become the strategist. But let me warn you, once you understand, you can't unsee it. From this point on, everything might change: how you see people and how you see yourself. Ever noticed how some people always get what they want, even when they don't earn it? They don't need to shout, demand, or beg. They persuade. They pull you in. They make you believe it was your choice to say yes. That's not charm, that's skill. It's manipulation at its sharpest. The manipulator doesn't act randomly. They watch. They learn. They see your habits, your soft spots, your emotional patterns. They know when you crave approval, when you fear being rejected, when you feel bad about saying no. And they use it. Manipulation starts before anyone speaks. It begins in how they read your posture, your tone, your silence. Some charm you. They flatter, smile, stand out as different. They make you feel noticed, understood, special. But it's all carefully crafted. They build an emotional debt because when someone is too kind, your instinct is to repay them. That's when you begin to surrender. Others use guilt. They play the victim. They act overwhelmed, unappreciated, alone, and they make you feel like their only lifeline. Over time, they put the weight of their emotions on your shoulders. And when you try to pull away or say no, they don't need to argue or fight. A simple sigh, a quiet comment, or just a sad expression is enough. The skilled manipulator rarely asks directly. They set things up so that you make the offer yourself. Then there are those who use fear. They create worst-case scenarios. If you do this, you'll end up alone. If you leave me, you'll never find someone like me again. They don't trap you with chains. They use ideas. They plant doubt in your mind until you stop yourself. These tactics aren't new. Niccolo Machiavelli described them with cold precision in The Prince, explaining how manipulation can be used as a real tool of power. He was one of the first to see that people are driven by emotions and self-interest, and those who understand this can shape the world around them. As he said, people judge more by what they see than what they feel because everyone can look, but only a few truly understand. And that's exactly what manipulation is, a carefully staged show meant to feel like real life. The manipulator creates a stage, and without even knowing it, you become an actor in their story. They give you a role, write the lines, and you play along. The scariest part? You believe this story is your own. But this illusion only works because something inside you allows it, some kind of inner weakness, an old wound, or a need you've never admitted to yourself. That's where we go next, into the personal vulnerability that makes you a target. Because until you see what's truly making you weak, you'll keep falling for manipulation and calling it love, respect, or friendship. It's time to bring this to light. If this video is connecting with you, hit the subscribe button and support the channel. Thank you. Now understand this, you're not manipulated because you're weak. You're manipulated because you're human. Every person has blind spots, emotional wounds, or unmet needs, and that's exactly what manipulators look for. They don't push, they listen. They notice things even you don't see in yourself. Some of us have a deep need for approval. Maybe growing up, we learned that love had to be earned, that we had to be good, quiet, helpful, just to be accepted. So we start changing ourselves, trying to be what others want. That empty space inside, the need to feel valued, becomes an open invitation to manipulators. They offer small doses of praise, and in return, we give them our trust, our loyalty, sometimes even our freedom. They say just the right words, and in exchange, we let go of control. Others carry guilt for saying no, for putting themselves first, for creating boundaries. They've been taught that self-care is selfish, that sacrifice is noble. So even when they sense something is off, they stay silent. They think they're being unkind or ungrateful. Manipulators spot that guilt. They pretend to be looking out for you. And little by little, they steer your choices by twisting your sense of right and wrong. And then there are those who live with fear. Fear of being left out, of being alone, of being forgotten. They hold on to any relationship, no matter how toxic, just to avoid that emptiness. The manipulator gives them a false sense of safety, then threatens to take it away. They make you feel like you're nothing without them. And the worst part? You believe it because deep down, your fear already told you that long before they did. All these emotional weak spots have a source. They don't just appear from nowhere. They come from your past, from pain, from trauma, from patterns you learned growing up. As long as you avoid facing those emotional wounds, they stay wide open. And those who smile on the outside but hide their real intentions know exactly where to strike. Machiavelli understood this well. He saw that true control doesn't come from force, it comes from understanding human weaknesses. The nature of people is changeable, he wrote. It's easy to convince them at first, but hard to make them stay convinced. A manipulator doesn't try to convince, they simply fill in the blanks. They step into the places where your self-awareness is missing. But here's the good news, there's a way out. You don't have to remain emotionally predictable. You can start recognizing your inner gaps and closing them. That's the only way to stop being an easy target and start seeing clearly. And that's what we're diving into next. You'll learn how to build real emotional armor, how to create genuine resistance against manipulation. But are you truly ready to stop being held hostage? Because this next step takes courage. Many people say they want to stop being manipulated, but few are ready to face the harsh cost of emotional freedom. The truth will set you free, but first, it will sting. And the first painful illusion to break is this: being kind, empathetic, and understanding doesn't protect you. It actually makes you more vulnerable, unless you balance those traits with self-awareness. Emotional immunity doesn't mean becoming cold. It means becoming conscious. It means breaking the automatic responses that manipulators count on. And step one is recognizing your patterns. Pause and reflect. What emotions make you cave in? Is it the fear of upsetting someone? The anxiety of rejection? The need to keep peace no matter what? When you understand what drives you, you begin to change the game. Step 2. Develop what Machiavelli might call strategic detachment. Learn to step back emotionally from situations without losing your humanity. This means watching without jumping in. It means not taking compliments as facts. It means noticing when you're being emotionally led and choosing to think before you react. Manipulators rely on your quick emotional reactions. They want you to feel, not to think. So, think. Step 3. Become unpredictable. Manipulators thrive on patterns. They learn your reactions. They know that if they cry, you'll comfort them. If they flatter you, you'll relax. If they push, you'll fold. So your strength lies in breaking that cycle. Shock them. Say no when they expect a yes. Walk away when they think you'll chase. Stay calm when they expect drama. That throws off their plan and reveals their real intentions. Another key is building a strong sense of self. The more you understand who you are, the less you'll feel the need to prove it. And the less you try to prove yourself, the less control others can have over you. Manipulators depend on controlling how you see yourself. They make you second-guess, hesitate, doubt, all in ways that fit their story. But once your inner clarity is solid, their control begins to vanish. Make no mistake, this is a discipline. Emotional immunity doesn't come from watching a single video. It comes from practicing self-awareness daily, resisting the need to please, holding your ground even when it feels uncomfortable. It means remembering that your only true obligation is to protect your peace of mind. Staying mentally strong in a world full of emotional games is already an act of rebellion. Machiavelli once wrote that people must either be cared for or eliminated because if you just offend them, they will come back for revenge. It's a harsh idea, but it reveals a hard truth. In the world of power, there's no middle ground. Either you take control of your emotions or someone else will. But what happens when the manipulator is someone close, at home, at work, or even in bed next to you? What if cutting ties isn't an option? In the next part, we'll explore a much harder type of manipulation, the kind that comes from those you love. And that might be the greatest challenge of all. It's easy to recognize manipulation when it comes from strangers. The real struggle begins when it comes from someone you love, a parent, a partner, a boss who once gave you a break, or a lifelong friend. That's when manipulation becomes quieter, more dangerous, and far more painful because it hides behind love, care, and loyalty. And out of fear of losing that bond, you stay. You get stuck in an emotional trap that slowly drains your energy, your clarity, your sense of self. A close manipulator doesn't need to lie. They twist the truth. They don't yell. They hint. They don't stop your choices. They make you feel guilty for having them. Little by little, you stop asking questions. You start walking on eggshells. You avoid conflict. You predict their reactions just to keep the peace. Without noticing, you become a prisoner of emotions you can't name. In a relationship, it sounds like love. I only act this way because I care. Without you, I'm nothing. But love that asks for your obedience is not love, it's emotional blackmail. In families, it looks like tradition. You can't treat your mother this way. You owe us respect. But respect that's demanded through guilt isn't true respect, it's control. At work, it shows up as loyalty. You should be grateful. No one else would give you this chance. But when gratitude is used as a weapon, it becomes manipulation. Here's the key point: being close doesn't give anyone the right to cross emotional boundaries. Love doesn't give permission to use fear or guilt to shape you. To break free, you have to accept something hard. Not all loving relationships are healthy. Not everyone who loves you knows how to love in a healthy way. And not all emotional bonds are helping you, some are holding you back. So, what do? Start by setting clear, calm boundaries. A peaceful no can be more powerful than a long explanation. Then, speak up. Say what you see, what you feel, and what you won't accept anymore. Not to change the other person, but to affirm your own truth. And finally, hold your ground when the backlash comes, because it will. There will be anger, silence, guilt trips. Manipulators push your limits, hoping you'll fold. Here's the part few want to face. Sometimes loving someone means stepping away. It means leaving the unhealthy pattern and letting the other person face their own emptiness. Because if you keep saving them, they'll never change and you'll lose yourself. It's a hard decision, but a necessary one. Because only those who walk away from toxic ties can gain a clearer vision, one that sees beyond words, beyond masks, beyond fake kindness. With this new perspective, we move into the next phase: how to apply Machiavelli's strategic thinking to today's world, protecting your mind in a place where everyone and everything seeks to influence you. It's time to take control. Machiavelli never wrote to win approval. He wasn't concerned about being seen as ethical, virtuous, or well-intentioned. His goal was raw, unfiltered reality, the kind that many try to avoid. And if you want to thrive mentally in today's world, you need to learn to think like he did, with harsh clarity, cold strategy, and emotional distance. Because make no mistake, we live in a world of constant manipulation. Social media, marketing, politics, religion, and even personal relationships are all based on influence, image, and narrative. Those who fail to see this get consumed by it. Machiavelli viewed people as predictable, driven by their emotions and interests. He believed those who understood this could control power. He famously said, "Men generally judge more by their eyes than by their hands. Everyone can see, but few can touch." In other words, perception matters more than truth. And that's how things work today. Whoever controls the narrative controls the choices. Whoever controls the image controls the influence. And those who understand psychological mechanics control others without ever raising their voice. What does this mean in practice? It means you need to stop running on emotional autopilot. Machiavelli didn't believe in universal morality. He believed in context. What works for one person may be a weakness for another. What seems noble in theory can be a disaster in practice. Kindness without awareness is naive. Honesty without timing is self-damaging. Selfless generosity is servitude. If you want freedom, you must learn how to play the game and play it well. Start with observation. Learn to read people the way Machiavelli read the nobles, not by their words, but by what they do when no one's watching. Look at actions, not promises. Analyze behaviors, not excuses. Trust less in words and more in the hidden interests behind them. And above all, don't react, anticipate. The manipulator plays strategically. Your defense is to stay one step ahead. Then use silence as your weapon. One of the biggest mistakes people make is overexposing their emotions. They share too much, talk too much, explain too much. The Machiavellian understands that silence creates confusion, commands respect, and disrupts the manipulator's rhythm. When you don't react as expected, the manipulative script falls apart. And in that space, you take control. Another key tactic is mastering ambiguity. Machiavelli taught that to hold power, you must appear virtuous, even if you're not. In today's world, that means adapting your language, body language, and presence to fit the environment while staying true to yourself. You don't have to reveal everything about who you are. You just need to show enough to manage perception. The rest you keep to yourself because true power is hidden, and above all, take responsibility for your emotional state. The manipulator thrives on your emotional instability. They need you to doubt, fear, and hesitate. When you know yourself, control yourself, and stand firm under pressure, you become impenetrable. Machiavelli would say, the prudent man should follow the paths beaten by the great and imitate those who have been excellent, so that even if he does not reach their level, he may come close. In simple terms, use the wisdom of those who mastered the game to stop being controlled by it. Now that you know how manipulation works and how to protect yourself from it, there's one more thing to address. What should you do with all this knowledge? How can you turn it into real strength and a new way of living, one that is immune to outside influence? That's what we will dive into in the final part. How can you take control of your mind and never be manipulated again? Are you ready to cut the invisible strings that still hold you? Let's go on. We've reached the most crucial part of this video, and perhaps the hardest one to accept. As long as you don't fully control your mind, someone else will do it for you. And it doesn't always have to be a villain or a manipulative figure. Sometimes it's someone close to you, someone smiling beside you. It can also be a phrase you heard when you were younger, which you still carry without questioning. It could even be society itself, which shapes you from an early age to obey, comply, and stay quiet. The manipulation that affects you isn't only in the words others say to you. It's in the thoughts you never learned to challenge. It's in the emotions you treat as undeniable truths. It's in the decisions you think are your own choices, but in reality, they were influenced by fear, guilt, and the need to fit in. True freedom starts when you stop calling it free will when, in reality, it's just disguised conditioning. But gaining this freedom comes at a price. It means breaking the illusion that everyone around you has good intentions. It means tearing down the image you have of yourself as someone who must always be nice, understanding, and available. It requires you to face the discomfort of setting boundaries, the weight of silence after saying no, the loneliness of stepping away from harmful dynamics that you once thought were part of your identity. You will stop being manipulated when you realize you no longer need others' approval, when the fear of displeasing people no longer controls your actions, when your clarity becomes stronger than your neediness, and when you can finally look someone in the eyes who tried to control you and calmly say, "No more." What you do with this knowledge now is up to you. You can go back to your life, forget all this, and keep playing the game without realizing you're being played. Or you can start today to train your mind to observe, analyze, resist, and rebuild. You have the choice to become the person who doesn't give in to emotional manipulation, who sees through masks, who stays firm even when everyone else is confused. Comment below. When did you first realize you were being manipulated? What moment made you see it clearly? Or are you still stuck in an emotional game and want help getting out? Share your experience. Speak out, because voicing it is the first step to breaking the cycle. And if this video has opened your eyes, don't stop here. Watch the next one. It's just as important as this one, maybe even more. Knowledge is a ladder, and each step takes you further away from the darkness. Keep climbing, because the truth not only sets you free, it transforms you. See you in the next one.